All right. Yankees are back in the win column. Thank God, because I did not want this team to get swept by the Guardians. And real quick, Gary, I actually want to bring up the importance of this series because if they get swept, they now have to essentially sweep the Guardians to get a tie of the tiebreaker. So this game was really important, I think, Gary. They're still in a bad spot for the tiebreaker. This is a Guardians team that could very well be competing for the number 1 seed in the AL. So I know it's way early, but these are the things that go through my head, Gary. It's just that's the reality.
Yeah, we're psychos.
They play 6 games, 3 games set in the Bronx, 3 games set in Cleveland, and basically these are 2 teams. They faced each other one step away from the World Series. Of course, the Yankees won, but this Guardians team, they are, well, Gary, we've talked about fruit flies before. That's how I describe the Guardians. They don't go away. They multiply. And it's like all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh, there are 2 guys on base because they have those like bleeder singles and all. And that's just the way they play baseball. It's the way Stephen Vogt, he wants guys in the lineup. They lost, of course. They moved on from, Mr. Big Shot at first base. So since they did that, they don't have the power anymore. They're very contact oriented. So that brings me to today where, Gary, I'll be honest with you, did not at all have any expectations for Carlos Rodon today. Really impressed with the way Rodon has looked the last 2 starts. So we're going to talk about that. That is the title. Rodon did dazzle again for the Yankees. Can he be trusted?
Okay. I'm going to start off with what happened, okay? And then I'll give you the answer. It's not going to take long to get to. But Carlos Rodon, when he started off today, the first 2 innings were not great. They just weren't. But this is what I loved about it. A lot of times, and I should really just say oftentimes, Carlos Rodon, you can watch the first inning and tell how the start's going to go. If he's complaining about his pitch calm, he's falling off the mound, he's saying, oh, I need sleeves, I need to take these off, right? I need to dry off my hands because of my sweat. You can sort of see the mentality that he has going into the game, okay? And after you watch a struggle bus for the first 2 innings, it was really labored. But once he got into the 3rd inning, it was no excuse making, none whatsoever. And he wasn't deliberate. That was actually the biggest indicator to me that he wasn't messing around today, is that he didn't slow down the process. You didn't start to see the pitch clock going all the way down to 1, holding the baseball. It told me he wasn't thinking out there, he was pitching. And that is beautiful. Carlos Rodon's fastball, the most important pitch he's got, if that pitch is well located, his slider is no longer a pitch that has to be in the strike zone. It can now be a pitch that is buried in a swing and miss pitch. You see now Carlos Rodon, who leads the American League with 45 strikeouts. So do we have a hard-on for strikeouts on this channel? No, we don't, right? We frankly don't care too much about the strikeout, but it's got to mean something that no one in the league has as many strikeouts as you do. And now what comes after that is innings and run prevention. Today we got that from Rodon, and now you bridge it with Cruz and Weaver. It's going to be a W, okay? We get good starting pitching. Weaver's not going to be a problem. He was tagged up a little bit, some hard contact, really good defense behind him. Cruz has just been sensational, period, okay? We were winning this game, and I know I see it in the chat. People want to talk about Volpe and what happened there, Jake. We'll get to that. It looked bad. It was probably his worst day of the season, to be honest with you, which is insane because we just made a video about Volpe. So for those of you who are new, right. So for those of you who are new, please make sure you subscribe to this channel and like this video. But if you want to hear about Volpe more in depth, because we're going to talk about him again today and what happened, go back to our last live, not our video, a live, and we discussed for about 45 minutes what happened with Anthony Volpe and what to think about this player. But I guess to answer the question more broadly, Carlos Rodon still is not going to be in my circle of trust. I'm just going to allow him start by start to build brick by brick this level of trust that over the totality of the regular season, if he shows me, hey, more times than not, I'm giving you a quality start. Now I can start to justify maybe not what we pay you, but your role in this rotation, and then I can put some trust in you going into October. I would love to do that, but as of right now, I saw 3 starts in a row that were kind of dookie. I saw 2 starts in a row that were fantastic. Obviously, he ruined that giant start there at the end, but now I need to see maybe 1 or 2 more the way that Max Fried showed us. Then I'll start to clap my hands.
Yeah, and you know what's fascinating about this start after, kind of compiling this after the really, really good start previously?
What's that?
Now, if you have one of those innings, I'm not saying 2 starts allow you to do this, but if you string together these performances, you get slack. That's how I feel. Like, if Rodon did what he did, remember he had that, I forget the outing, but he had the outing, he was dominant, and then he fell apart at the end of it. Remember that?
Of course.
Well, to me, if he strings together these type of performances, let's say 8 of the next 10, then if he does that the next time, I'm not going to be as hard on him. And I think that's the whole point, is that the reason we were so hard on Rodon is because he didn't have anything like this to start the season. He didn't really give us any sort of, oh, yeah, this guy is in control. He needs to take up the mantle. I mean, obviously Max Fried is the ace, but they got Max Fried not to be the ace. They got him to be the power 2 next to Cole. Well, now, whether Rodon's ready or not, or he wants the spotlight or not, he needs to take over in what Fried was supposed to do with Cole. And I think that's kind of the misconception, is that you think, oh, there's only one ace. Not with today's game. You kind of have to have multiple. And to me, when Rodon's pitching like this is all you could ask for. This is beyond what you could ask for. 7 innings, no earned runs. Obviously, the error, Cody Bellinger, but 8 strikeouts. I mean, only 4 hits given up. He was stellar today. He really was.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to the super, and then I want to sort of dive into the lineup, because obviously there's a lot good, and there was a lot really bad today, offensively, okay? And Wildman Samurai, this is one of Jake's guys with the 10, says, "Sup, Jake and Gary, like what I'm seeing out of the Yankees, and I'm happy for the channel growth. Thank you."
Thank you,
Guess
Wildman.
we'll call you Samurai. Hey, Jake, let's effing go Rams tomorrow. So we got a Rams fan here. Obviously excited about the Thursday night's draft. Can't blame him. Keep up the great content, guys. Thank you so much for the super and supporting the channel. We really appreciate that. And
100%.
I want to transfer this conversation to the lineup. Obviously, we saw Ben Rice there at the top, who was sensational as a table setter. It was interesting because when I was watching the game right off the rip, I'm really thinking to myself, there's some young players in Volpe and Wells, right? And you saw a good swing out of Wells today, but there are a lot of young players that we've got on this roster that just have no situational awareness. They're good players. They've got the talent, right, to fill in the gaps there, to put up some numbers maybe for a week or two. But Ben Rice showed up today and led off. He starts off the game with multiple walks, right? He was on base 3 times today. It's exactly what his job is. So I love that today. Ben Rice was really productive. He was obviously at first base, which we like to see. I think a lot of people are sort of projecting him as the full-time first baseman next year, right? So we get Paul Goldschmidt off his feet, keep him in the lineup. Love that Boone did that instead of just getting him out of there entirely. Really good work. Obviously, Goldschmidt at this point is hitting 383. He had 3 knocks again today. Not surprising. And Jake, I want to bring up one thing that happened in the game that I actually thought was incredibly smart on the part of Cody Bellinger. And I understand he made an error today, right? He didn't necessarily swing the hottest bat. You didn't really have a great day. But there was a moment today where Paul Goldschmidt split the gap in left center field. Jazz Chisholm, who is struggling more than any baseball player probably on earth offensively, he's hitting 100 since the opening series of the year. Paul Goldschmidt splits the gap in left center field, and Cody Bellinger runs through the stop sign at third base. I was actually trying to give the credit to our third base coach for sending him to make sure we get an opportunity to score and push the envelope. Obviously, we get hosed at the plate, but you absolutely, every single day of the week, twice on Sunday, make that send to home plate and make them make that throw. If they don't and you stay at third base, you're now waiting for Jazz Chisholm, who, again, I don't think many of us trust him to score anybody with anyone in runners in scoring position. So I just like that move from Cody Bellinger. So, yeah, top of our lineup today, sensational. Aaron Judge, cartoon character. He's hitting 415. It's the 5th best batting average. through the first 25 games of the season, sensational. Bottom of the lineup, and this is where the real conversation happens, Jake. Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, Dominguez, Cabrera. It's really Chisholm, Volpe, Wells, where we're starting to ask some questions about who are these players, right? Where is the level of consistency? Like I said, I like some of the swings that Wells showed today. What did you think about the bottom of this lineup today?
I think Dominguez is trying to pull away from the pack. That's what I think. I think he needs to be higher up in the order. The reason being, I think the average doesn't really showcase what I'm seeing, and I think what you're seeing as well at the plate. This is a disciplined hitter, okay? This is a guy that is not swinging for the fences every at-bat. He's not, whiffing like crazy, swinging outside pitches. I'm really impressed. I continue to be really impressed with Jason Dominguez's plate discipline. I think people are taking for granted what this 22-year-old player is showing at the dish. I really do. Because
would you shove him up to fifth?
Absolutely. Why would you not? I would bet him third over Bellinger. That's kind of my issue right now with the lineup, Gary. I think it's very disjointed. You have Ben Rice.
Right.
I think there's a really nice cohesion with Ben Rice and Judge. I think right now, this is what I would do. Jason Dominguez, I would lead off. I get speed. I get athleticism. He's working pitches. I get Ben Rice in the second spot, right? That way he's generating, more RBIs, more RBI opportunity, more run creation. Then I get Judge in the 3-hole, and the cleanup is Goldschmidt. And the reason I like this, or I could do the other way around, but you want to keep that lefty, all that.
Yes.
But if say you did it the other way around, that does make sense too, because now I get Ben Rice in a cleanup spot. One could argue, and you know me, I'm not trying to bash Boone for the sake of bashing him, but one could argue he's keeping a lot of runs off the scoreboard by having Ben Rice lead off, because he's coming up there. How many solo shots has he hit this year?
It feels like a lot. By the way, did you see? I know you saw it because you liked the tweet. Somebody in our YouTube comment section, and we read all of them, so I want that to be perfectly clear.
Yeah.
Someone called Aaron Boone, and I'm not saying that this is what he is, but this is what one of our audience members said. They called him Boonehead. He has so many funny nicknames. It is insane. I absolutely love him. And we have hilarious. A super chat here from Luis Soto. Thank you, Luis. We appreciate the 5. Says, please, for the love of God, why is Volpe hitting 6? We don't know. He should be 9th. I'm sick of him leaving a small village on the base pass. Yeah, and Luis, to your point, again, thank you so much for supporting us. He is going to come up with traffic on base. You can just look up at the box score. Simply put, Jazz Chisholm isn't getting on base a lick. Like today he got on base. He walked a couple times, had a knock, bleeder single, but we're thankful for it. But if you look at Paul Goldschmidt and the work that he's doing, he's hitting almost 400. Aaron Judge is hitting 415. So yeah, there's a lot of traffic on the base pass from the top of this lineup. And I saw it in the chat earlier where someone said, feels like our top 3 is pretty much doing all the work. They're sort of pulling everybody ahead, which feels a little bit like last season. Well, I would say you're not wrong. Anthony Volpe is a solid defender with a weak arm that he makes up for with some instincts, and he's not a bad defender. I don't care what anyone says. He's good. But we're not determining the fate of this player based on what he does with his glove, Jake. We're trying to figure out, am I going to look up at the scoreboard on April 23rd, and we understand it's early, and my player is going 0 for 5, my shortstop's going 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts? Yeah, Luis, you're going to leave a lot of guys on base if that's going to be the output. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, right now, I would just say it very simply put. Cody Bellinger has a 236 on base percentage. His slugging is 291.
Good Lord.
Aaron Boone is a third generation major league mind, right?
That's right.
How do you look at Cody Bellinger and say, yep, That's the guy I want in the 3-hole, which is designated for essentially the best hitter in the lineup. I like Bellinger as much as the next guy. He is struggling. So Bellinger, not a bad day today. Walked. He had a hit. But Bellinger should be near the bottom. I would make it very simple. This should be a power ranking system. That is how he should do the lineup. He kind of already does it that way. He just doesn't actually fully go through with it. So what I would do is I would have Jason Dominguez leading off. I would have Ben Rice. I'm switching that. I would have Goldschmidt bat second. I'd have Judge bat third. I get Ben Rice in the cleanup spot. And now I have some serious RBI potential because I also think it's harming their ability to come back in games. Ben Rice is up at the plate, and he's leading off the inning, and no one's on base. So if he hits a home run, that's all fine and well, but you need 3 runs. Well, now he's not on base, or he's not on deck or whatever with guys, on base. So I would do Jason Dominguez, Goldschmidt, Judge, Ben Rice. My 5th hitter would be Oswaldo Cabrera because of the way he's hitting right now. Okay. I would literally push everyone who's struggling to the bottom of the order and make this a power ranking system. What good? Like, people say, oh, well, you can't do that to Jazz Chisholm's confidence. You can't do it to Cody Bellinger's confidence. The hell I can't. And Anthony Volpe's not on my.
What do they mean?
Not be in my lineup.
Yeah, I guess I would say, what do they mean by I can't do it to their confidence? You should look up at the scoreboard and say, I'm hitting 165.
Yeah.
That should do something to your confidence. That should pull pride out of your chest. Okay?
Exactly.
And I will tell you, this is I guess my takeaway is that when I watch Cody Bellinger, who, by the way, we've said countless times, so I hope that people understand this. And yes, Jake is a Knights fan.
Yes, I am.
I hope people get this. Cody Bellinger's hitting third not because they think he's the best hitter in the lineup. Cody Bellinger's hitting third because they're going lefty, righty, and Cody Bellinger is being protected when Aaron Judge is getting on base ahead of him, and Paul Goldschmidt is hitting behind him. That's Aaron Boone's thought process. And can that help a hitter? 100%. Absolutely can. But it gets to a point where if you're not going to show evidence that that is working in real time, well, now I need to give somebody else that opportunity. Right? Cody Bellinger has all the time in the world to work himself right back in this position. I have no problem with Cody Bellinger, by August being our 3 hitter. I really couldn't care less, but I still need to see that 270, 285 Cody Bellinger, and now we can start to shift you into that direction. But it seems like right now we're just putting people in certain roles because of what they should be rather than what they actually are right now.
Yeah, see, I agree with you, and I like the vision here. I would just move Rice with Dominguez, and then that's really my thought process. If you want to keep Cody Bellinger ahead of Cabrera, that's totally fine. I'm not going to fight that. But, this is what I'm talking about. Moving the guys that are struggling down, albeit I would put Jazz over Volpe, and I'd take Volpe out of the lineup entirely, and this is the opportunity for the Yankees to right their wrong, if there is one. I could be wrong. And here's the thing. I want to make this clear. Oswald Peraza is an unproven player. He's a guy I like. He's shown me some things, and I believe he might have as good of a glove, if not better than Volpe, with a better arm, but nothing is concluded. He's not a bad player. He's not a good player. He's an unproven player. So this is the opportunity in my... I'm going to highlight this real quick. Just got sent down in the most wasteful. That was the biggest waste of time I'd ever seen.
The brother had a cup of coffee and they literally catapulted him. And we know they put his locker. For those of you who don't know this, they put their locker right at the end, and it's designated for the guys who just show up and then disappear. That was a disappear job. It's unfortunate because anytime we see a young player get called up, you want to see them get an opportunity. And especially if a young player gets called up and some of the players positionally ahead of them are not playing well, Jake, where a lot of us are saying Anthony Volpe probably should get a day off. We know they have a day off tomorrow, but what about Friday? You mean to tell me you couldn't squeeze a young player out there into the field, give him an opportunity?
I swear to God, Gary, if they say, Anthony Volpe got a day off on our off day. I'm gonna crash out. I'm gonna crash the hell out. All right, here's the deal. Okay, going back to what I was saying, Peraza is not he's not anything. We don't know what he is. Nothing has been determined. This is the time. Okay, when he's struggling and he needs time off, this is the time to see if Peraza could work it short. Because instead of protecting your investment that isn't going well and doubling down on something that is pretty much a failure because he is a bust right now, instead of doubling down on that, try and find a Band-Aid at least in the short term. And maybe you have something in the long term. You know what this reminds me of? This is opportunity. They did this last year at first base. Older, minor leaguer, they never really gave a chance. Ben Rice. True. Look where he's at right now.
That's exactly what happened.
This is literally what happened.
Rizzo was not supposed to come out of the game at all.
No.
He gets a concussion, okay? He never recovers. It's unfortunate. It's part of the game, injuries. There's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing they can do about it. The Yankees let this go undetected for months. He couldn't hit for power. We didn't know what was going on. And eventually they figured this out. Rizzo comes off the field. To your point, Jake, they call up Ben Rice, and I'm sitting there thinking, wow, Ben Rice. I wasn't expecting to hear his name. I thought he was just going to be sitting there in first base, down in the minor leagues, never to be moved ever. Just one of those guys who puts up numbers, and they say, oh, he hits everywhere. But he never really gets that chance. That's who I thought Ben Rice was. And sure enough, he comes up to the big leagues, has his three homer game. You brought up, oh, I think that this is actually going to hurt him, right, in his approach. It did. And then we finished the season, he's hitting 171. But you go into the following season and they talk about his new approach and how he's making adjustments. We wouldn't even be in this situation going into spring training, seeing what Ben Rice can do at the big league level if it wasn't for them giving an opportunity to a younger player because somebody else either wasn't available or wasn't performing. And in Rizzo's case, it was both. So, Jake, if I'm going to look at someone like Anthony Volpe, who a lot of people in our comments are saying should be hitting ninth. Yeah, you're right. Offensively, he's the worst hitter on the team. It's not close. Okay? Jazz, if he touches the ball, it goes out of the stadium. It's still not good, but we know what we're actually expecting there. Now, for Volpe, tomorrow, they all have off. Friday, Volpe should not play at all. He shouldn't come off the bench, nothing. Unless he's a defensive replacement at the end of the game, he should not touch the field. And personally, I wouldn't even do that. So here's what I do. You throw out a young player. You don't play Volpe Friday. You don't play Volpe Saturday. You don't play Volpe Sunday. And you see if anybody hit the ground running with that opportunity. You go maybe 4 or 5 days, and you say, the guy put it shortstop. Yeah, you can see somewhat of a regression defensively. He's not Volpe, but he was able to put some balls in seats, right? He was able to touch the outfield grass with a baseball. It's called a hit. Okay, now we're building towards something. Or, Jake, here's the real thing. You gave them somewhat of an opportunity. They did nothing with it. And now you know, oh, that guy, yeah, we've given him a shot before. He's not anything. And now you know how to go about your business, how you go about the deadline, how you go about the offseason. So, but with Anthony Volpe every day playing poorly and just playing anyway, you're getting answers from nobody. It's really just a depressing outing.
Yeah, it just feels like there's some favoritism involved. Like they really like the guy and they're going to keep rolling with him. And I mean, let's not act like that doesn't exist in other sports. If you draft a guy number 1 overall and you spend a lot on him and you have a guy that might actually be better, but you picked him in the 5th round instead, well, you're going to look like an idiot if you basically give up on the number 1 overall guy, even if you know the 5th rounder is a better player. And so you'll try and at least stretch it along enough where you can maybe win. And I just don't think there's a win here. I think this is who he is. He's 23. I get that. There are a lot of young players that have been given up on that didn't do a lick of anything. They gave up on a guy that should have won Rookie of the Year in Andujar. I bring this up all the time because they were so quick to give up on him. They've done it in the past, Gary. It's just, I really think they're going to get burned on this one because, to your point, and you said this perfectly yesterday, when it comes to Anthony Volpe, it's not about who he's playing over on the roster currently. It's who they chose to go with, Anthony Volpe, over all the different guys they could have gotten along the way.
There's a lot.
And so, yes, and they're big names, but they're names that produced. And you're the New York Yankees. I mean, the Yankees are known for being the evil empire and spending and building a Death Star in the form of a baseball team. And if this doesn't show you that they're far from that team, they're far from that organizational mindset, I don't know what will, because George Steinbrenner would have already traded Anthony Volpe. I mean, he would have traded him last year probably at the deadline.
Yeah, and there's pros and cons to that, right? Just over
of
aggressiveness and giving up when perhaps you don't need to. And I'm always down for a story that has a happy ending here. I love the idea of any young player on this roster or any veteran where you get kicked down, you get off to a bad start. Cody Bellinger's hitting a $177. That is terrible. Okay?
Yeah,
there's no
absolutely.
remix to that. I want to see him get back on his feet where people aren't talking about his contract. They're not talking about his error that he had today. I want to talk about good stuff. I do, right? Obviously, we talked about, so Mike Smith says the timing on the Volpe video, then he follows with an 0 for 5 with 4 Ks is hilarious. Yeah, it is. It really is. So
Yeah.
I just feel that perhaps people are looking at this as a waiting game. That Anthony Volpe just needs time. He just needs patience. You can just throw him out there, and eventually he's going to start to show you some momentum in the direction that we're asking him to go. But my feeling, Jake, is that you need some form of evidence to travel in a certain direction, okay? If you were on a voyage and you have no reason whatsoever, nothing is telling you that land is coming up, why are you going that direction? You need to know where you're going. Anthony Volpe has shown us time and time again, I am a really good glove. I have a weak arm. I'm going to make occasionally some mental mistakes. I'm not going to charge a ball when I should, right? Not a big deal. But now on the other side of the ball, I'm not going to hit very consistent for contact. I'm going to constantly get confused with the style of hitter I'm supposed to be. I'm going to hit 4 home runs in a weekend, and then I'm literally going to hit 0 for the next 4 weeks because I go 0 for 24, and now I'm trying to slap singles. He does not know who he is, okay? Anthony Volpe has not shown any evidence of where this is going. So I want this to work. He's a great kid, Jersey kid. Obviously, it's the hometown, homegrown story that everybody wants to love, but it's only lovable if it's working, okay? And I want to see where this is headed, but as of now, the Yankees need to be realistic. Anthony Volpe is a utility player. He is a really good defender. Some would call him great. You know where really great defenders that can't hit a lick hit? 9th.
Yeah. It's frustrating because, I mean, I know people that are already pro Volpe. They're going to look at this show and be like, it's the Volpe bashing show or whatever. But we weren't like rooting against him. I'm not rooting against him. I just think right now, like, I can't stand watching him hit. I honestly just don't find any enjoyment in it. I don't think he has good at bats. I think in year 3, there have been guys that showed probably a little bit more promise that were moved on from way quicker. And that's just how I feel. And it does still crack me up to this day. You'll find tweets like people saying, oh, yeah, Ben Rice trade chip. I saw you commented on that, Gary. But
Isn't that insane?
The idea that Ben Rice is a trade chip when Anthony Volpe, his spot on the roster is fine. But Ben Rice, who is a top 3 hitter on this team, that's the guy. Yeah, let's trade. Are you kidding me?
I think they look at just a surplus of talent. They think, oh, they're good, so we can get something good. It's like, well, yeah.
You know what's really irritating, though? Because he's 25. So they'll be like, oh, he's old. Okay, well, Josh Hamilton was old. Do you remember Josh Hamilton's emergence? Some guys are late bloomers, and that's the way it is. Aaron Judge was 25 the year he had 52 home runs his rookie year.
Yeah, could you imagine, by the way, if your boss brought you into his office and was like, Jake, you're just doing really just garbage work in June. And you're like, why are you such a hater? Do you see how stupid that sounds?
Yeah.
Nobody's hating. These are professional athletes, man. This is supposed to be fun. And we're going to conclude the show with something positive because I wanted to talk about actually the value for this roster, this entire organization, Ben Rice is providing. And I'm glad you brought up that post. But it's just surprising to me that people take, I shouldn't call it criticism. It's really just information, your personal opinion on what it is that we're consuming. We're all fans of this game. Before we had this podcast, Jake, we were fans just like anybody else. We turn on every single day we watch this team, and we consume what it is that's actually going on out there in the field. They don't ask me to go play left field. They don't ask me to drop down a bunt. I've never been asked to go steal second base for the Yankees. I am literally consuming the content that's on the screen as entertainment. So are you, Jake. So is everybody else who's watching this show. So my takeaway is that when I'm watching some of these players and you have any criticism or critique of an Anthony Volpe, well, perhaps someone just cares that somebody else is in position to take this position, because you have to remember playing shortstop of the Yankees is a huge privilege. It's a hard job, very difficult. And perhaps it's going to require another round of interviews. I don't know, Jake.
Yeah. And I have to say this because I have to get this off my chest.
Yeah.
There are people that are spreading that whole WRC plus for Volpe.
Oh, my
and
Lord.
I have to say, I had a really long conversation with my father about this because he also is like anti-analytics. I'm not against it, and he's not against it either. He believes it's a tool, just like you and I both, right? It's a tool. Just don't abuse it, like anything, right? Well, it gets abused, and WRC plus, weighted runs created, in my opinion, is it is the perfect example of how analytics basically redefine what is success. And the reason I say that is because when you're doing all this weighted crap and you're focusing on the dimensions of the type of stadium this player is playing at that time and how that needs to be weighed into the equation because a home run in this place, it sounds good in theory. But what you end up doing is you end up really distorting the true image. Okay, these guys are hitting, not all of them, but some of them are hitting situationally based on you can't do that. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's absolutely insane to be like, well, this guy, his WRC plus, okay, but what's his batting average? To me, if WRC plus is telling me that Anthony Volpe is above average, which the definition, above average, potential all-star, which again isn't hard to do. All-star's one half of a season. But potential all-star, are you watching Anthony Volpe and saying, yeah, that's potential all-star?
Can I read the post? Because mind you, this is not even being critical. This is just reading somebody else's opinion on our platform. That's all we're doing. Okay. Yeah. And Randy Wilkins came out and posted.
Who I like, by the way. Yeah.
No comment. So, Anthony Volpe has 113 weighted runs created. Plus, he's hitting and barreling the ball better. I'll get to that in a second. At the moment, he has double-digit walk rate, and he's doing this while playing great defense. He obviously has to maintain and build on this, but he's off to a great start. Maintain what? You looked up at the scoreboard and saw somebody hitting a $188 and said, yeah, what actually is happening here is he's got to keep this up and perhaps build on it, get a little bit better, and now we're really cooking with grease here. And then the beginning there, the introduction. He's hitting and barreling the ball better. When did that happen? When?
That's insane.
Which player was that? Because we're not talking about the same Anthony Volpe. That's not who we're clearly. Clearly naive to who this is we're talking about. Anthony Volpe has not barreled balls at all. Okay? There was a ball Volpe hit 3 days ago. I remember it crystal clear. Then Michael K. broadcast and said, oh, sharp ground ball to shortstop, right? I wanted to look up the actual velocity on that ball. Definition of a barreled ball, by the way, guys, is 95 miles an hour. The contact was 81 miles an hour. Not even close to a barreled baseball. This is not this is what analytics sometimes does. As you've mentioned, Jake, it distorts reality. Rather than trusting your eyeballs and saying, That guy struck out 4 times today. He got out his 5th time, weak ground ball. Well, yesterday, even if you get a hit, it's weak contact, really no authority whatsoever. No one's afraid of you. The game plan right now is attack this player, whoever they are. Attack this player with fastballs. That is the game plan. You don't need me to tell you. You guys watched it for yourself. What player is there in baseball where you're like, yeah, he's just got to maintain what he's doing offensively, and that's going to be enough. But we're going to attack him with fastballs. That's our game plan. This is just not even serious. That's why analytics, it has a bad rap because people use these effective tools and then just abuse them. It's disappointing.
I'm still waiting for us to break down waffle on here.
We will eventually. And Luis Soto, before I kick it over to you, because I want you to answer this, because then, I've got bowling in like 10 minutes, so I got to wrap pretty soon.
Yeah.
But Luis Soto with the super, again, thank you so much, Luis, says, what are we going to do when Stanton comes back with Rice? And we're now inching closer towards, Rice is still playing really well. I think he's going to be a really good bat for us long term. Jake, what do you think the answer is here? Because it's harder to answer than I think a lot of people are giving it credit for.
They're going to have to find a way to put him out there, whether that is at second base or at third base. They can't win games without Ben Rice in the lineup right now. There you go. They can't.
I think you got to put him in like right field or something. Like throw Judge back in,
it's just
like
like
center.
This is straight up like Little League. Just right field, no one will hit it to you.
Yeah, you have to really get realistic with this and say, where can we put Ben Rice?
If you put him in right field, his arm is the issue. Remember I was saying that?
You did say that, yes.
Catcher. And of course, being a catcher, throwing from the crouch and throwing with like all sorts of gear on is a lot different than just being able to crow hop and fire it from right field. But I didn't love what I was seeing about Ben Rice's arm. Now, people look at that and they say, he can't play third. I disagree. And people look at that and they say he can't play second. I really disagree. But I think his athletic profile, he could play probably quite a few positions in the field. And, worst comes to worst, you might have to just throw him at catcher.
If this continues, and that's not what we want because technically speaking, we know the value of Austin Wells behind the dish, and we think that he's going to turn it around offensively, but the glove, he's the number 1 framer in baseball. Yeah. We don't have the challenge system out there yet, so framing matters today.
Exactly.
Okay? Now, maybe next year when framing is maybe mattering less, okay, then now we can probably start to introduce the idea of an offensive first catcher. That makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, you're going to have to either, I tell you this, there's no possible way that Ben Rice is just going to be splitting time. That's not an answer.
I don't buy
So
it.
wherever it is in the field that you personally, I'm talking to you, think that this player should go, and that includes Boone, put him there. Because you can't just say, we just don't have a spot for him. Because I know I look up at the lineup and I see like 2 or 3 guys hitting $190. You've got a spot for Ben Rice. Don't tell me he can't play defense.
Yeah, so here's Ben Rice real quick. I'm going to bring this up because I think people need to understand, and I think visualizing, we can talk about it, but I think if you have a visual up there, people, I don't know how this is going to look, so it could be really wonky, but let's do it.
It's probably going to look like it was shot with a Nokia. Oh, it looks great.
Yeah, so
what is this?
That's a lot of red. This is Savant, and right now Ben Rice has a expected weighted. Yes.
This is not Ben Rice's Savant page.
This is Ben Rice. This is what I'm talking about. There's no way you can tell me that you can sit this guy and play him every other day.
Wow.
That is, you would be the biggest imbecile if you took this guy out of the lineup and you're like, yeah, we're fine with 165 Jazz, 198 Volpe, and 177 Cody Bellinger.
How important do they think?
Hell out of here.
How important do they think gloves are? And by the way, we really like defenders. Like you saw the error today from Cody Bellinger, and it really stung. Right? It was a win, so we let it go. But defense is not that important. We're a player that puts up this. Okay, guys, get a hard look at the screen. Red, 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 red.
All
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
percentiles.
Looks
So
pretty
he's
good.
the hardest hitter in the league. And you want to, oh yeah, he'll play every other day. Are you out of your damn mind? I will crash out if this dude ever leaves the lineup.
This is what Brian Dawkins' savant page would have looked like if he played football and they were like, yeah, hard tackling
Sheldon
savant.
Brown too.
Yes, this is Taylor Mays-esque. So at some point or another, you just have to look at this number and say, are these numbers good enough? Are they in the green enough where I can live with perhaps poor defense at a given position? Given what a lot of players, there's probably 3 or 4 guys in our lineup right now that are just outs. There's no way their glove's strong enough to prevent this from playing every single day just because you have 2 great options at DH. Giancarlo Stanton should start every single day, as long as he's healthy, at DH. Should never sit. But now you look at Ben Rice and say, can he play third? Can he play first? Can he play outfield? Whatever that answer is, it just can't be none of them. Figure it out. Throw him somewhere.
Yeah, this is why we have the discussion. By the way, you can't see his walk. He actually has a 75 percentile walk percentage.
Oh, wow. So it gets better.
Yeah, I mean, last year, so if you look at last year, which he didn't qualify for, he was in the red for barrel, expected slugging, expected or chase percentage. So, I mean, this guy was showing you some things, but in half as many plate appearances, he has almost the same amount of runs, almost the same amount of hits, almost the same amount of home runs, 2 more stolen bases. He's hitting 288 as opposed to 171, and he has over 1,000 OPS as opposed to a 613. Guys, this is a player that the Yankees have hit on. I feel confident. This is not just like, oh, this is a good start. He might have a decent slump probably in the middle of the season because that's normal, but this guy is for real. And it's time to stop with the whole, oh, he wasn't a top prospect, because I see people say that, and it irks me to no end. I don't care if he was the top prospect. When a guy is doing these things, and by the way, if you're going to be, oh, analytics here, but then not, count these analytics here, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, I basically that was the point I wanted to make. I think we're good on that.
Yeah, and I want to get to this super chat.
Yeah.
You could probably throw us to the normal screen. Beautiful. So Golden Spatian with the 2 says Volpe's got to be the streakiest hitter I've ever seen. Completely agree. Well, actually, I shouldn't even say streaky because the ups really are hardly there at all. But I'm going to say this to really conclude our point about all of these hitters, not just Volpe to pick on him because he's had his day out in the rain on this show. Anthony Volpe, Ben Rice, and you look at some of these players and you say, well, that guy's a streaky player. Their savant page does not look like that. It's never looked like that. Remember, when Anthony Volpe was hitting well, they were talking about barrel percentage high, velocity low, right? Chase rate, some of those, they were trending in the right direction. Ben Rice isn't trending. He's not trending towards league average, let alone bad in any of these categories. It's popping off the screen. You want to see what the baseball savant page looks like for Fernando Tatis, right? For Manny Machado, some of the Ohtani, they're all bright red, just like this. So sometimes analytics, and this is our proof here, Jake, we're not anti-analytic. Some of these are tools that have to be used correctly. If you look at someone's savant page and it literally tells you, yeah, this player hits the ball harder than anyone in the league. He doesn't chase balls outside the strike zone. Can't you learn something about those numbers? I feel that I've learned something about these numbers, and I said before, I didn't think Ben Rice would be here long term. Well, these numbers suggest otherwise. They just do. So obviously, so happy for Ben Rice. Happy for us that potentially we should have a long-term first baseman here barring injury. And at this point, you got to really feel like the Yankees are getting out of jail free here. One prospect isn't working out in Anthony Volpe. Some hidden gem in our minor league system in Ben Rice, it's working.
You know what this is? I mean, I think he's better than him, at least potentially.
What's that?
It's literally missing on Trey Lance in the draft and hitting on Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
I think Ben Rice has a higher ceiling than Brock Purdy. Like the way he's playing right now, it's insane. But that's what I would say. So any 49er Yankee fans, then you might understand that. If not, it is what it is. But want to highlight this real quick. Exactly. Came back from an elbow contusion. And then the first thing he does, knock an Oppo over the tall wall. And also, he should have 7 home runs. He was robbed. So there you go. He was robbed. Anyway, that's going to do it because I don't want Gary to miss his, what do they call it? Not tea time for bowling. What do they call that? Shoe time?
It's a total
time?
nerd sport where you don't have
Pin
to be
time?
athletic at all. It shouldn't be called anything. It's just bowling.
Yeah, but you also golf, so it's okay.
Any sport you can play while you're eating is not a sport.
Okay.
That's bowling.
Duly
It's
noted.
fun.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying to tell me if I'm playing football and I'm eating while playing football, it's not a sport? There's some illogical thing there.
Yeah, true.
All right, movie, real quick.
Is that me?
Actually, no. Let's just do this. Put in the comments section where you think Ben Rice should play
Love that.
on the days that Stanton is in the lineup. I
love that.
actually slowly but surely kind of came together. He played it in camp.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to get some catcher duties because I don't think Stanton's going to play every other day. I think he'll probably play twice, maybe once a week.
Sold.
And the days that he doesn't, he plays catcher. And you just have to live with it. You're just like, you know what? His bat is way too good for me to complain. There you go.
I have no remixes to that at all. I don't really think anyone would have a problem with it. Is anyone in our chat going to complain that
I see catcher,
we're,
Rice at catcher.
we're not hosing guys at second base the way that perhaps we should, right? Because Wells can throw the ball.
Yeah.
He's got a nice transfer. Like, there's no problem there. The framing is first in the league. Is it really going to be a problem? Ronnie with the late super, by the way. Ronnie says, another great show. Thank you so much, Ronnie, for the 20 and supporting
Appreciate
the boys.
you, Ronnie. Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Big win today. 5-1. Had to have it to avoid the sweep. We get a day off tomorrow. Jake, that means day off for the boys.
Hell
yeah, we'll see what we do with
Much
it.
needed. I'll be doing the NFL draft stuff, so not a day off for me, but
Very true. Pray for Jake.
yes. So, guys, after this ends, be sure to drop the position you want Ben Rice to play when Stanton comes back. But that's going to do it.
And like this video.